Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dan Lanning, the Oregon Ducks. I guess there's no other way to say it than it's another miss for Oregon on the recruiting trail, right? Five-star quarterback Ryder Lyons committing to BYU. And I want to have two different conversations. Number one, where does Oregon go from here at the quarterback position in 2026? And then secondly, hey, the general recruiting outlook for the Oregon Ducks. Something feels a little bit different. And we're going to have a conversation regarding that as well. Now, I guess my personal take on the Ryder Lyons situation is sometimes in life you can do everything right, not get the result you wanted. You kind of feel like you're saying that for both Jared Curtis and Ryder Lyons. I mean, you look at Oregon, it sometimes happens when you go big game hunting the way Oregon is doing it in 2026. Sometimes you can do everything right and still not get the desired result. And I feel like we just saw that with Ryder Lyons committing to BYU. We're going to start with the quarterback conversation. There's two quarterbacks that are going to be front and center of this conversation. I want to give my general take on at least my personal feeling regarding Oregon on the recruiting trail. Before we get into it, as always, to the Oregon fans, I would love to hear how you guys are feeling too. I feel like, especially in situations like this, there's no better way to get a pulse of the vibes around the program than just hearing from the Oregon fans. I'm going to give you my take. Would love to hear yours in the comments section. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. You know, a lot of the Oregon fans been rocking with the boys for a long time. There's been a lot of highs for Oregon on the recruiting trail. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Obviously, not as fun as breaking down commitments. That's for sure. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with quarterback options. You got two: Bryson Beaver, Matt Ponatowski. Let's start with Bryson Beaver. I feel like this one, to me, makes the most sense for Oregon to pivot to in 2026. This is a number one, just a very good looking quarterback prospect, right? 6'3", 200 pounds, can make all the throws, an impressive performance at the Elite 11 last week. I think there's a lot of development that needs to take place both physically and between the ears. But I think when you're Oregon and you're looking at the quarterback position and what kind of quarterback you want to add in 2026, what you know is, look, we're going to have time for whatever quarterback we take. You know, there's a runway of 2 to 3 years where either Bryson Beaver or Matt Ponatowski probably not going to start for Oregon their first 2 years on campus. So you can afford to go get a quarterback that might not be a finished product right now, but you feel like can be a really good quarterback down the road. I think Bryson Beaver certainly fits that mold, you might say. Now, here's the other thing I'll say with Oregon when it comes to quarterbacks in 2026. I don't feel like there should be a ton of pressure to take a quarterback if you don't love him. You know, I look at Oregon's quarterback room. Sorry, Dante Moore's got 2 years of eligibility remaining. Austin Novosad, you know, he's a guy that's got, I believe, 3 years of eligibility remaining. Yeah, Luke Mogul with 4 years of eligibility. You got Achilles Smith with 4 years of eligibility. I look at the quarterback room and say it's not a priority. It's not a must for Oregon to bring in a quarterback in 2026. Now, might you want to add a quarterback every single recruiting class? Yeah, absolutely. But if you don't feel like there's a quarterback that can be an eventual starter for you on your board, maybe just push your chips in for your top guy in 2027. Now, the next name we're going to talk about, Matt Ponatowski. This kid, I think, freaking rocks. And if it's me running with the Oregon Ducks, and I'm obviously not, but if it was me, and I was picking between Bryson Beaver and Matt Ponatowski, and you said, hey, you can have either one of these cats, which one you choosing? I think I'm choosing Matt Ponatowski because I think the upside on this kid is very intriguing and it's very high. He's 6'1", 200 pounds, ridiculous numbers his junior year in the state of Ohio. He threw 57 touchdowns to 3 interceptions with a 69% completion percentage, leading his student team to a state championship game. Most importantly, with Matt Ponatowski, he's a gamer. Now, the big caveat with Matt Ponatowski, legitimate baseball prospect, and you're not sure. I mean, there's a chance that Matt Ponatowski just don't even play football in college, just goes the baseball route. That's how good of a baseball player he is. Now, if you were to choose football, or if he were to play football in college, I should say, I think it's a very intriguing developmental upside quarterback. And going back to the conversation we had with Bryson Beaver, I look at it and say, hey, you're gonna have time with this kid. You know, he ain't gonna start as a freshman, probably not gonna start as a sophomore, probably has a chance to start year 3, year 4. By that time, this kid could be a very dynamic quarterback who I think fits the Will Stein offense exceptionally well. You look at or you look at Will Stein and what he wants this offense to look like. It's a lot of quick stuff. You know, it's a lot of short, intermediate timing stuff. Matt Ponatowski, that is where this kid thrives. A lot of different arm angles, a lot of different platforms he can throw off of. You clearly see that baseball background as a quarterback. That's where he excels. And that's not to say he can't push the football down the field. He certainly can. But I look at the film and say, hey, where does this kid thrive? He thrives everything within 20 yards. Really good release, really fast release, really good timing with his throws. To me, I think there's a decent amount of upside and kind of untapped potential because of that unique baseball background, but at the same time fits Oregon's offense really well. This would be a very intriguing quarterback to add in 2026. You got two guys that I think eventually could be very good starting quarterbacks for Oregon. And at the same time, you got a deep quarterback room, but you also have a young quarterback room. Now, 6 months ago, I would have thought, hey, Oregon needs a 2026 guy because I didn't have a ton of confidence in Luke Moga. I'll say this: Luke Moga and Achilles Smith in the spring game, I thought showed flashes of, hey, these guys could be great football players for Oregon over the next couple of years. So we'll see where Dan Lanning and Oregon decide to go. You know, it certainly stings missing out one on Jared Curtis, then on Ryder Lyons. I still think there are some quarterback options for Oregon. And at the very least, hey, just go push your chips in for your top guy in 2027. I think the second conversation we all have to have is the general recruiting outlook. You know, especially with Richard Wesley on Sunday committing to Texas. That was a guy that we didn't have penciled in for Oregon, but we kind of thought he'd be signing with Oregon in the 2026 class, and very well might still. Here's my take. There's three different takes I have. Number one, you definitely have to try to figure out the disconnect that's going on with Oregon on the recruiting trail. I mean, this program went from 12 months ago, they were just taking whatever they wanted. It was whatever guy Oregon wanted to push their chips in for, they were landing those players. In 2026, it feels very different. Like there's a lot of marquee misses that we've seen from Oregon. I'm not sure what it is. I don't think it's NIL. I don't think it's like the lack of confidence in terms of where this program is going. Maybe it's just an unlucky couple of recruitments, you know? Whatever it is, if you're Dan Lanning, you want to try to figure it out and address it. Number two, I would look for this Oregon team to do a lot of work in November and December for a couple of different reasons, most notably that's Dan Lanning's time, right? Dan Lanning historically closing out classes has been at his best as a recruiter. Now, why do I think it could be especially pertinent in this 2026 class? Because I think this Oregon team in 2025 is going to be a really good football team. But more importantly than just being a really good football team, I think they're going to be a really good young football team. And that matters when you're trying to sell these kids at the high school ranks. And these kids are looking at, hey, I want to go get developed into the NFL. I want to go compete for national championships, and I want to go play early. Well, I think Oregon's going to have the opportunity to show all three of those things over the next couple of months in the 2025 year. They're going to have a lot of NFL draft picks. I believe they're going to be a good football team in 2025, but I think they're going to do it with a lot of young talent on the football field. I think that could be a massive asset for Oregon on the recruiting trail later on in this process. And then lastly, hey, Oregon's been as good as anybody in the portal. And if you do, I think the lucky part of where we're at in college football for Oregon, specifically in 2026, is, hey, if you miss on some guys that you didn't want to miss on the high school recruiting trail, well, you get another opportunity in the portal to kind of backfill some of those needs. And we've seen Oregon be as good, if not the best, as anybody in the country in terms of using the portal to build their roster. We'll see what Oregon decides to do. I think to close it out, I'll say this. The time that I panic on Oregon in terms of talent acquisition will be the time that I view Oregon as not a team that has enough talent to win a national championship. I think they had enough talent in 2024. I think they have even more talent in 2025. Whenever Oregon stops having the talent necessary to win a national championship, that's when I'll be concerned about Oregon on the recruiting trail. But as of right now, I still think are there some things that are stinging right now and not great? Yeah, absolutely. But as of right now, Oregon, I think still is going to have the talent to win national championships over the next couple of years. And until that changes, I'm probably not going to be pressing the panic button. We'll sign out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.